Sorry, folks. I don't know what's happening. They keep turning on the live, so I guess they keep messing it up. But I don't know. All right, folks. Something happening right here. They keep messing up with my live. I don't know what's going on. They keep going blind from my end. I can't see. And then when I log in back, the video is playing, but it seems that I'm into another account.
No hope, no success, no development, no resistance, no honor, no pride, no victory. So I ask you, New York Times, Washington Post, Guardian, Le Monde, have you ever made Africa's successes your headlines? How many times have you written about Rwanda's technology miracle? How many times have you shown Ethiopia's reforestation project? How many times have you praised Botswana's democratic success? How many times have you described Kenya's entrepreneurial ecosystem? No, because these don't fit your scenario. Your Africa cannot be successful. It cannot, because then how will you legitimize your exploitation? If it's not in need of help, how will you intervene? If it's not backward, how will you look down on it? Have you ever asked yourselves, has any editor sitting at their desk, any news director in a meeting, any columnist at their keyboard ever thought, why are the people of the world's richest lands poor? Here are the numbers for you, real numbers. Africa owns 70% of the world's cobalt reserves. Your cell phone, your computer, your electric car won't work without cobalt. This cobalt comes from Congo, but Congolese can't afford cell phones. Africa owns 90% of the world's platinum reserves. Catalytic converters, electronic devices, medical implants, they all need platinum. This platinum comes from South Africa, but South Africans are crushed by unemployment. Africa provides 30% of the world's gold production. Mali, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Tanzania. Gold flows like rivers from our lands, but our people swim in poverty. Africa supplies 65% of the world's diamond production. Botswana, Angola, Congo, Sierra Leone, billions of dollars worth of diamonds are extracted, but our miners live on $1 a day. Africa owns 35% of the world's uranium reserves. Niger, Namibia, South Africa. Nuclear plants run on our uranium. Paris lights burn with our uranium, but our villages have no electricity. And you still ask, why is Africa poor? No, the right question is, how was Africa kept poor while being so rich? Here's your answer. Colonialism didn't end. It changed shape. You used to come and occupy our lands. Now you come and establish companies. You used to take by force. Now you make agreements. You used to rule with the whip, now you rule with credit. Let me give you concrete examples. With numbers, names, dates, but you'll never write about these. Glencore, Swiss-based mining giant, extracting cobalt in Congo. 2022 revenue, $256 billion. Tax paid to Congo, $500 million. That's 0.2%. Is this justice? Rio Tinto, British-Australian mining giant, extracting bauxite in Guinea, 20 million tons annually. What's left for Guinea? Environmental pollution and cancer. Total Energies, French oil giant, extracting oil in Angola, Nigeria, Congo. 2022, profit, $36 billion investment in Africa, dirty pipelines, Anglo-American, founded in South Africa but now in London. Diamonds, platinum, iron, taking everything. What it left in South Africa? 6 million unemployed miners. And these are just the tip of the iceberg. What about the invisible, the secret deals, the offshore accounts, the transfer pricing tricks? Every year, $88 billion in illegal money flows out of Africa. Who writes about this? Every year, $45 billion in aid comes to Africa. Everyone writes about this, but no one says Africa is not the continent receiving aid, it's the continent giving aid. While you zoom your cameras on swollen bellies, there is a huge system working silently in the background. Every day, tons of gold, diamonds, cobalt, uranium, oil leave our land. But how? Here is the system. Step 1, create corruption, bribe our leaders, open offshore accounts, promise them a life of luxury, send their children to your schools. Step 2, make deals, get 50-year, 99-year concessions, ask for tax exemptions, be part of this system too. Who are the biggest advertisers of New York Times, CNN, BBC, oil companies, mining companies, arms companies, pharmaceutical cartels, the companies that exploit Africa? You live on their money, you defend their interests, and what I'm about to tell you might cost me my life, but it's no longer time to be silent. France's system in Africa is the CFA franc. 14 African countries still use French colonial currency. 50% of these countries' central bank reserves sit in the French treasury. France applies negative interest to this money, so we pay France to use our own money. Through this system, France transfers $500 billion worth of resources from Africa every year. Does anyone write about this? No. But when France gives Africa 10 billion euros in aid, it makes headlines. Britain's system is more sophisticated. London is the world's money laundering center. City of London, offshore paradise. Every penny stolen from Africa passes through London. Jersey, Guernsey, Cayman Islands, Virgin Islands, all under British control. Africa's wealth hides there. America's system is AFRICOM, Africa Command, 46 military bases on the continent. Official purpose, security. Real purpose, resource control. Drones in our airspace every day, listening devices everywhere. They say fighting terrorism, but it's not terrorists. It's people's leaders who are targeted. China is the new player, says win-win, builds infrastructure, gives credit, but in exchange for what? 99-year port concessions, mining rights, agricultural lands, debt-trap diplomacy, ask Sri Lanka, ask Zambia, and you write about none of this. Why? Because you're not free press. You're corporate press. Your bosses are billionaires. Jeff Bezos bought Washington Post. Why? For love of journalism? Rupert Murdoch's media empire, Fox News, Wall Street Journal, The Sun, The Times, all from the same hand, all giving the same message. West is good, others are bad. Carlos Slim is the largest shareholder of New York Times, Mexican billionaire. Where's his wealth from? Monopolized telecommunications, got rich off Latin America's back, now controls America's most respected newspaper. And you claim to do independent journalism? Who are your editors? Which schools did they graduate from? Harvard, Yale, Oxford, Cambridge? Always the same elite schools, always the same worldview, always the same prejudices. How are your reporters selected? How many languages does your Africa correspondent speak? French, English, that's all. Swahili, Hausa, Yoruba. I'm archiving every distortion. I am Ibrahim Traore, and today I'm pulling off your masks. Yes, you heard correctly. I, whom you call a young military junta leader, whom you brand as a dangerous radical, whom you serve up as an anti-Western dictator, am now telling you the truth. And this time you cannot turn off your microphones. This time you cannot turn away your cameras. This time your editors cannot cut this speech. Because the world you monopolize no longer exists. Because millions will hear these words now, without passing through your filters, without being subjected to your distortions, without being muddied by your lies. I am 34 years old. Every day of my life, I grew up with your lies. As a child, I would watch Africa on television. Always the same images. Children with flies, dry lands, weapons, death. This is Africa, they told us. This is what Africa is. And we believed it. We were ashamed of ourselves. We were ashamed of our own lands, of our own people. But then I grew up. I read, I researched, I questioned, and I understood that the Africa you showed us wasn't real. The story you told us was a lie. The fate you imposed on us was a script you had written. For years, how have you portrayed Africa? How have you shown it? How have you sold it to your viewers? As if we were creatures who had no share of humanity, as if we were savages left outside of civilization, as if we were wretches waiting for you to save us. Every day, every hour, every minute, the same story plays on your screens. Hunger, war, disease, corruption, terror, chaos. These are the words that come to mind when Africa is mentioned. In your Africa dictionary, there are no other words. No hope, no success, no development, no resistance, no honor, no pride, no victory. So I ask you, New York Times, Washington Post, Guardian, Le Monde, have you ever made Africa's successes your headlines? How many times have you written about Rwanda's technology miracle? How many times have you shown Ethiopia's reforestation project? How many times have you praised Botswana's democratic success? How many times have you described Kenya's entrepreneurial ecosystem? No, because these don't fit your scenario. Your Africa cannot be successful. It cannot, because then how will you legitimize your exploitation? If it's not in need of help, how will you intervene? If it's not backward, how will you look down on it? Have you ever asked yourselves, has any editor sitting at their desk, any news director in a meeting, any columnist at their keyboard ever thought, why are the people of the world's richest lands poor? Here are the numbers for you, real numbers. Africa owns 70% of the world's cobalt reserves. Your cell phone, your computer, your electric car won't work without cobalt. This cobalt comes from Congo, but Congolese can't afford cell phones. Africa owns 90% of the world's platinum reserves. Catalytic converters, electronic devices, medical implants, they all need platinum. This platinum comes from South Africa, but South Africans are crushed by unemployment. Africa provides 30% of the world's gold production. Mali, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Tanzania. Gold flows like rivers from our lands, but our people swim in poverty. Africa supplies 65% of the world's diamond production. Botswana, Angola, Congo, Sierra Leone, billions of dollars worth of diamonds are extracted, but our miners live on $1 a day. Africa owns 35% of the world's uranium reserves. Niger, Namibia, South Africa. Nuclear plants run on our uranium. Paris lights burn with our uranium, but our villages have no electricity. And you still ask, why is Africa poor? No, the right question is, how was Africa kept poor while being so rich? Here's your answer. Colonialism didn't end. It changed shape. You used to come and occupy our lands. Now you come and establish companies. You used to take by force. Now you make agreements. You used to rule with the whip. Now you rule with credit. Let me give you concrete examples. With numbers, names, dates, but you'll never write about these. Glencore, Swiss-based mining giant, extracting cobalt in Congo. 2022 revenue, $256 billion, a tax paid to Congo, $500 million, that's 0.2%. Is this justice? Rio Tinto, British-Australian mining giant, extracting bauxite in Guinea, 20 million tons annually. What's left for Guinea? Environmental pollution and cancer. Total, now Total Energies, French oil giant, extracting oil in Angola, Nigeria, Congo. 2022, profit, $36 billion investment in Africa, dirty pipelines, Anglo-American, founded in South Africa but now in London. Diamonds, platinum, iron, taking everything. What it left in South Africa, 6 million unemployed miners. And these are just the tip of the iceberg. What about the invisible, the secret deals, the offshore accounts, the transfer pricing tricks? Every year, $88 billion in illegal money flows out of Africa. Who writes about this? Every year, $45 billion in aid comes to Africa. Everyone writes about this, but no one says Africa is not the continent receiving aid, it's the continent giving aid. While you zoom your cameras on swollen bellies, there is a huge system working silently in the background. Every day, tons of gold, diamonds, cobalt, uranium, oil leave our land. But how? Here is the system. Step 1, create corruption, bribe our leaders, open offshore accounts, promise them a life of luxury, send their children to your schools. Step 2, make deals, get 50-year, 99-year concessions, ask for tax exemptions, be exempt from environmental rules, ignore labor rights. Step 3, control the infrastructure. Take over ports, airports, railways, but only from the mine to the harbor. Don't build roads to the villages. Don't bring electricity to schools. Step 4, provide security. Set up private security companies. Arm them. Declare protesting. Step 5, silence the media. Buy local journalists. Suppress opposing voices. Serve internal unrest news to international media. And this is how the system works. It's been working like this for 100 years, and you don't see this system. You don't want to see it, because you're part of this system too. Who are the biggest advertisers of New York Times, CNN, BBC, oil companies, mining companies, arms companies, pharmaceutical cartels, the companies that exploit Africa? You live on their money, you defend their interests, and what I'm about to tell you might cost me my life, but it's no longer time to be silent. France's system in Africa is the CFA franc. 14 African countries still use French colonial currency. 50% of these countries' central bank reserves sit in the French treasury. France applies negative interest to this money, so we pay France to use our own money.
But everyone has a different story.
Through this system, France transfers $500 billion worth of resources from Africa every year. Does anyone write about this? No. But when France gives Africa 10 billion euros in aid, it makes headlines. Britain's system is more sophisticated. London is the world's money laundering center. City of London, offshore paradise. Every penny stolen from Africa passes through London. Jersey, Guernsey, Cayman Islands, Virgin Islands, all under British control. Africa's wealth hides there. America's system is AFRICOM, Africa Command, 46 military bases on the continent. Official purpose, security. Real purpose, resource control. Drones in our airspace every day, listening devices everywhere. They say fighting terrorism, but it's not terrorists. It's people's leaders who are targeted. China is the new player, says win-win, builds infrastructure, gives credit, but in exchange for what? 99-year port concessions, mining rights, agricultural lands, debt trap diplomacy, ask Sri Lanka, ask Zambia, and you write about none of this. Why? Because you're not free press. You're corporate press. Your bosses are billionaires. Jeff Bezos bought Washington Post. Why? For love of journalism? Rupert Murdoch's media empire, Fox News, Wall Street Journal, The Sun, The Times, all from the same hand, all giving the same message. West is good, others are bad. Carlos Slim is the largest shareholder of New York Times, Mexican billionaire. Where's his wealth from? Monopolized telecommunications, got rich off Latin America's back, now controls America's most respected newspaper. And you claim to do independent journalism? Who are your editors? Which schools did they graduate from? Harvard, Yale, Oxford, Cambridge? Always the same elite schools, always the same worldview, always the same prejudices. How are your reporters selected? How many languages does your Africa correspondent speak? French, English, that's all. Swahili, Hausa, Yoruba.
All right, folks. Good evening again. Once again, this is Frank. I am your host. This is WCC, the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series, as part of WCC every Sunday. I want to welcome you all, and as you come on, please share the live. Hit the red button, the blue button. Let it go. Now, today's topic, it says U.S. Congress, again, the United States, right? Yes. We will never rest as long they cannot rest. So, U.S. Congress noted that Western organizations, the United Nations, USAID, United States government, their media, and their taxpayer, about 40 billion, or let's say 40 million United States dollar, right, goes to terrorists every year. Imagine this. 40 billion United States dollars, taxpayer, the US government, sent it to terrorists around the world. It seems that I'm joking, right? No. It seems that it is an opinion statement, right? No. It seems that a conspiracy statement? No. the real. The United States government, the United States Congress confirmed that 40 million United States dollar in taxpayer money go to terrorists, go to fund terrorists around the globe every year. That's what they give to terrorists every year. This is what they say in their Congress. You know, if they themselves said it that every year they spend 40 million United States dollars, they give it to terrorists every year, then how can the same people, the United States, and by the way, this is just the US, okay? This $40 billion every year that go to terrorists or to go for terrorist activities, this is just the US. This is not France. This is not yet France. So France got her own contribution to make. Europe got her own contribution to make, because what we want to say here is anything the US do, the other nations do it. The other nations who also colonize and enslave African, they all work together. Because imagine this, and this is what we want you to understand. In the 1884 Berlin Conference, we said it and we will continue to say it. In the 1884 Berlin Conference, it was said, the closing statement for our Berlin Conference was said, the descendant of those that were in that meeting of the 1884 Berlin Conference, the descendant of those that were there, which are the people today that are supporting terrorists, they say they will make sure Africa and her descendants, we today that are alive, will never, ever succeed. Will never, ever succeed. And our forefather at that time said, the struggle continue. They said we should never trust our enemy, because our enemy have said their descendant will make sure the descendant of black at that time, I say the African at that time, their descendant, which we are today, will never succeed. So then, how come these people who support their descendants, who support terrorism today, come to you and tell you, say, we want to help you fight terrorism, when they give 40 million every year to the terrorists? No wonder why the terrorists or the Al-Qaeda or the ISIS are well equipped and trained. No wonder why. They have modern weapons, modern technology. No wonder why. But the army to that country to which these foreigners or foreign armies or bases are, the military of that country does not have modern equipment, does not have modern technology to fight mortal war, but the terrorists have it. Now, the United States Congress just told us, which you're going to see today in their own statement, 40 million United States dollars every year, taxpayer, go to fund terrorists. But then, it bad for us, some of us, that we have some of these African leaders. We have some of these Africans advocates who sit on various platforms, write articles in support of Africa on the African continent. But here it is, the United States Congress is saying all Western organizations. I'm not saying it. That's what they say. You're going to listen to them. They say all Western organizations support terrorism. Even the United Nations, they said it, not me. They said even the United Nations also support terrorism. Man. And we stay safe as Africans. The last time I see Africans leaders fighting to have a non-permanent seat on the United Nations, and Liberia was chosen. They don't even know the reason to which Liberia was chosen as a non-permanent nation to be on the United Nations. What is the reason? What is the purpose? What is the function of a non-permanent on the United Nations? What is your function to be a non-permanent? Because you have no veto power. You have no saying. They won't listen to you. You don't make decisions. You are nothing but like a spectacles. You are still the same entity that do go to the United Nations every year or every season, go and stand and speak and talk about African issues, but the United Nations does not listen, or they listen not. What is the function? I see Liberian celebrating. I see Liberia saying history has been made for Liberia to be chosen as a nation in Africa to have a non-permanent seat on the United Nations. What, I went on one of the celebrations and I posted there my comment. What is the function of a non-permanent nation on the United Nations? What is the purpose of a non-permanent identity on the United Nations? What are your functions? What are your duties? Like, what are you there for? To receive crumbs? The same people told you if Africa have a veto power on the United Nations, it will become dysfunctional. Do you think they're going to give you power? What is the function of a non-permanent? We Africans focus on the wrong thing and leave the right thing. What we need to focus on, we don't focus on it. We focus on the wrong thing. For real. Do you know why Liberia was chosen as a non-permanent nation to represent Africa? First of all, it doesn't make sense. Why should a small nation like the United States have a veto power on the United Nations? A whole continent does not have it. And Africans, you guys celebrating for a nonsense seat, and nonsense that doesn't make sense. You have smaller countries around here having veto power, and you don't have it. A whole continent does not have veto power. A whole continent does not have a function. A whole continent does not have a say on the United Nations. A continent of 1 billion plus people. A continent that hosts almost the needed resources on Earth. A continent that every nation, every continent are fighting over. A continent that any nation in the world, if you don't have a say in Africa, you will become a third world country. You will become a third world continent. And you don't have a veto power on the United Nations. And then they pick one nation in Africa to have a non-permanent seat. Define a non-permanent. What is non-permanent? Define a non-permanent. And you rejoicing? Since the United Nations was founded, you stay advocating for a non-permanent seat. And then they gave you one. An entire continent. While smaller nations around here having permanent, having veto, and a whole continent of 1 billion people does not have seat, does not have veto power, and you rejoicing? What a nonsense. But anyway, let's get to the topic. Because the United States Congress told us, all Western organizations in Africa, NGO in Africa, they are supporting terrorists. I didn't say it. They said it. You're going to see the video. And then they said 40 million United States taxpayer dollar every year go for terrorist activities in or around the world, in Africa as well. That's what they said. And they said the United Nations is also part, also sponsor terrorists. US government sponsor terrorists. Their media sponsor terrorists. Is that lie? See the achievement of Abraham Traore or the Sahel nation defeating terrorists. But do you see Western media reporting on it about the success of the Sahel nation in defeating terrorists? Do you see it? That's how the media support terrorists. You know what they did last time? The terrorists went and attacked in Burkina Faso, attacked a village, and the terrorists killed people. And the Abraham Traore army went and slaughtered these terrorists with the help of China and North Korea, modern technology drone. With the help of China and North Korea, modern technology drone. And they defeated the terrorists, killed about 200. Guess what the media said? Western media said. Western media twists the story around. They said Abraham Traore on alive 200 civilians. Do you see how the Western media support terrorism? The terrorists came in a village, slaughter citizens, and slaughter some of the army, the military men. And then Abraham Traore used his drone that was given to him by China and North Korea to fight terrorists. And these terrorists were defeated and killed. And some of them were arrested. These terrorists have modern weapons. But when mainstream Western media reported and twisted the story around and said, Abraham Traore owned alive innocent citizens, innocent civilians. So they call it terrorists, innocent citizen, innocent civilian. The United States government said that is how Western media support terrorists. And they also say United States taxpayer 40 million every year goes towards supporting terrorists. And they also say all Western non-governmental organizations also support terrorists. They also say USAID support terrorists, which of course that's something that came up, but again they reinforce it. They also say the United States government support terrorists. That's what they said, not me. They also say United Nations support terrorists. Anyway, let's see something here. Before we bring out a video, let me bring out an article about Red Cross. Red Cross been in that region, in the Sahel region, for over 30 years. Do you see how they support terrorism? Who want to be receiving aid for 30 years? Or for over 30 years? They don't want to be independent, but they're receiving aid. Who gave aid for 30 years? Who keep giving help for 30 years? Your entire life. Because if you keep giving help for 30 years, that's your entire life you've been helping people. You know, Niger accuses Red Cross. Niger accuses Red Cross of supporting terrorists. And Niger did, let's say Red Cross deny it, but we are here to prove it. And see what Red Cross said. Anyway, let's read something here. Let's read. Let me not take time. All right. I have two articles. All right. I have two articles. We're going to read those two articles, all right, and their own Red Cross. And we're going to use Red Cross as the scapegoat for all non-governmental organizations and for all Western organizations, all right, to set our premise. And then before going to the video of the United States Congress of confessing of their support for terrorists on the African continent. Watch this. See what the Nigerian leader said here, all right? And see the response of Red Cross. These people are so adamant. They don't care. Now, Red Cross closes Niger offices and foreign staff leave after the government explosions order. They said jointer, but again, I'm not going to call them jointer. They are not jointer. They are government. To the West, these people are jointer. But to we Africans, they are government. In fact, they are democratic government. All right? We have a way of defining what democracy is as it opposed to the Western form of definition of democracy. Because what is good for the United States is not good for Africa. And what is good for Africa is not good for the United States and for Europe. What good for you may not be good for us. And what good for us may not be good for you. So if they are joint at government to Europe and the United States or to the West, they are not joint at government. They are democratic government because they are for the people. All right? So the definition of democracy for Africans and to Africans is different from that of the definition of the United States. Now, let's continue here. Let's continue here. We will continue to expose these people. Red Cross, they are the ones supporting terrorists on the African continent. They gave treatment to the terrorists on the African continent. All right? Look at this right here and see the responses Red Cross gave. All these people need to be out of the African continent. Now, the International Committee of Red Cross announced the closure of its offices in Niger and the departure of its foreign staff. 4 months after the ruling government, again they said jointer, no, we're not using that word here. 4 months after the ruling government, the democratic government of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso offer the organization to leave the country, Red Cross to leave the country. The Red Cross confirmed the closure and departure in a statement on Thursday. Listen to this. We reiterate our willingness to maintain constructive dialogue with the authorities of Niger with a view of resuming our strictly humanitarian protection and existing activities. That's what Patrick Youssef, the Red Cross Regional Director for Africa, said in the statement. Now, let me even clarify this. If a government tell you, we don't want aid, we don't want assistance, we don't want help, we can do it, why are you still there trying to dialogue? The people say, leave, leave. There is no need to dialogue. Let's continue here. Red Cross. We use Red Cross as a scapegoat here. Let's continue. All right. In February, Niger Foreign Affairs Minister had ordered the Red Cross to close its offices and leave the country. No official reason was given. This is Red Cross talking. No official reasons was given for the military leader. In fact, I'm not using that word military. For the government, for the democratic government of Niger, decision to shut down the organization operations in the country at the time. They call them military jointer. They are not military jointer. They can go to hell. We don't care. Let's continue here. Let's continue. Be with me. We're getting to a point here. All right. Now, the Red Cross said it has been in dialogue with Niger authority since February to understand the reason for their decision and provide any necessary clarification, but that these efforts were unsuccessful. Now, Red Cross is saying they do not know, they are innocent. They don't know why the Nigerian government is telling them to leave. You see these idiots? Do you see these idiots? But we're going to tell them the reason why they told them to leave. Even though they try to make themselves look good. But let's continue here. Let's continue here. All right? Now, Red Cross refuted the accusation, all right, in a statement on Thursday saying that dialogue with all sides, listen to this, listen to what Red Cross is saying. Dialogue with all sides in the conflict is necessary to carry out its humanitarian mandate, and that it never provide financial, logistic, or any other form of support to any or to armed group. Listen to this. Let me read this again. Now, the Nigerian government accused Red Cross, all right, of being on the side of the government and being on the side of the terrorists. Do you get that? So that is why the Nigerian government said, you can't be on our side and you be on the side of the terrorists, on the side of the enemies. How can you say you are here to help us, to help the civilian, to get aid to Burkina Faso, but at the same time, you are giving financial support, you are giving medical support to the terrorists, empowering them, making them hefty to come and fight us, to come and kill us. So the Nigerian government said, we can't be fighting our enemies and then you to the enemy, giving support to the enemy, so leave. But see what Red Cross said. Red Cross said, right? Red Cross denied the accusation on Thursday, and then they said that the dialogue with all sides, according to them, they are dialoguing with all sides. They are dialoguing with the government and the terrorists. Do you see that? They are in dialogue with all sides of the conflict, which make it necessary for them to carry out their humanitarian work. So do you see how they gave assistance to the terrorists? Do you see how they gave financial support, ammunition support, and financial support to the terrorists? So for this reason, the Nigerian government said, you have to leave. We don't need you. And then Red Cross said, the Nigerian government did not give them any concrete reason. Is this not a concrete reason for you to leave the country? But listen to this. Let me bring out another article. Listen to this. Do you see here? Now, this relates to what the United States Congress said. They gave support to the terrorists. They gave $40 million United States dollars every year. So this is how Red Cross carried this money to the terrorists. This is how the NGO carried this money to the terrorists. This is how the United Nations carried this money to the terrorists. Do you see? This is a confirmation of what we are going to listen to from the United States Congress. And the United States Congress said all Western non-governmental organizations also support terrorists on the African continent. Let's read one more article here to clarify what Red Cross is trying to defend. This is why African leaders, all of you people, you all need to work together. Look, we have to stop working with these Western war. They don't mean good for us. They never meant good for us yesterday. In fact, what we're going through right now, what we are facing, they are the cause. They are the cause. Look at the next article. Look at the next article. Red Cross trying to defend. Okay. The next article here. Let's see something here. Let me see here. There is something I want here in their defense. In their defense, let me see if I can find it. There is something I saw here. Let me see if I can find it. I just want to go to their justification. All right, so it should be somewhere in here. Let me see here. Now, listen to one of the statements here. From the first, hold on. From the first article we read, right? Red Cross said it is neutral, right? Or it is in dialogue with both sides of the conflict. That means the terrorists and the government. It is in both sides of the conflict, right? Now, when you are on both sides, you have to do what the other people want and also what the other people want. Right? Now, the Nigerian government said Red Cross support terrorism, and that's why they want them out. Red Cross denied it, but Red Cross said they are on both sides of the conflict. Why are you on both sides of the conflict? You have to be on one side, and that one side is to be to the government side, because the other people, they are enemy of the state. So if you are working with the enemy of the state, that in itself classify you also as enemy of the state. And that is why Niger said Red Cross is an enemy of the state and Red Cross should leave. And Red Cross is still defending and saying the Nigerian government did not give any sufficient statement as to why they got to leave. But listen here, this is another sufficient statement as to why Red Cross got to leave. Let's see this. We're going to bisect it. Now, Red Cross said, to fulfill its humanitarian mandate is to protect and assist victims of armed conflict. You see that? Victims of armed conflict. That is, they are also there, right, to support the terrorists if they are wounded. Are you seeing this? They are there also to support the terrorist activities, give them weapons, give them medical treatment. Sometimes, some years back, Nigerian police, or let's say Nigerian army, reported on this. They said the Medecins Sans Frontières, another non-governmental organization of France, Medecins Sans Frontières was supporting Boko Haram, giving them medical aid, medical treatment. Do you see that? So Red Cross is saying they gave assistance to both sides of the conflict, engaging in a how they call it, the Red Cross engaged in a spoken or written dialogue with all parties. You see that? With all parties to a conflict. It said in a statement on Thursday. So these are the reasons. These are justifiable reasons. Niger said Red Cross should leave. And this is Red Cross statement. Red Cross said to facilitate its humanitarian mandate is to protect and assist victims of armed conflict. The ICRC engages in a spoken or written dialogue with all parties to a conflict. Do you see this? This is a confirmation of the United States Congress. I brought this so that you can see what the United States Congress says in that video that you're going to watch or you're going to listen to, as a confirmation of what they said, because Red Cross is saying they engage in dialogue with both sides, the government and the terrorists, and they give support to all sides. Tell me something. If the United States, if any hospital in America here, let's say today, terrorist activities in the US here, let's just give an example, right? And then you have this hospital going on terrorist camp, giving them medical treatment on the terrorist camp, while the United States government is fighting the terrorists. But you have this hospital going on a terrorist camp, supporting the terrorists, giving them treatment so that they can get well, to can kill American people. And then the American government tell that particular entity to close. And then that entity say, we don't want to close because we are in agreement with both the terrorists and the American government. In order to carry out our humanitarian purposes or purpose, we are there to support the terrorists and at the same time support the American people. The terrorists that were to conquer American, that they don't want you supporting. Do you see the dialogue? What's going on here? Will the United States government agree for that entity to stay or that hospital to be open? Or do we shut it down and in fact imprison the people who are on the forefront of supporting giving medical treatment to the terrorists? Will the American government continue to fund that hospital? Do you see what is going on here? Do you see what is going on here? You see it? So this is what Niger said. Niger said the Red Cross is supporting or collaborating with Islamic insurgents group. And Red Cross just confirmed it. Yes, they are in collaboration with them. So what is the better explanation that you need? What kind of dialogue that you still want to have with the people government? When you just said you are on both sides of the conflict. You support both sides of the conflict. You support both sides of the conflict. So the people tell you then leave. You can't be on our side and then you on the enemy side. Is that what the United States is good at doing? Anybody the United States is enemy way? The United States then ask or their own people to be enemy. What is the United States doing? And the United States is an enemy or making enemy with China, making enemy with Russia, and then the United States is telling African, if you want to be our friend, don't be friend with Russia, don't be friend with China. So then why when Niger do the same thing, then Red Cross get angry and say, you need substantial evidence. That is even an insult. So Red Cross have been used, right, as a scapegoat for all foreign company on the African continent or in African nations, right? Now, to further clarify or to confirm, let's see what the United States Congress said, because Red Cross agreed that what the Nigerian government accuses her of is true. She worked with both the terrorists and the government, because she said she have dialogue with the Nigerian government and at the same time with the terrorists. She's working on both sides. She's having dialogue with both sides, and she's supporting all armed conflict group in the country. For what? Watch this.
$40 million a week to the Taliban?
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations?
We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances.
Mr. Roman, are you aware that we are sending $40 million a week to the Taliban?
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to?
All right, so you heard that, right? So are you aware that 40 million United States dollars a week, in fact, not even a year, a week, go to the Taliban? And he said, yes. They didn't say go to the government of that country, but to the Taliban. Now, do you wonder why these Islamic group or insurgency have these modern weapons? Do you see how they are so encouraged? Look, what Michael Leslie said last week in last week's discussion. Michael Leslie said, he revealed something to us. He said Burkina Faso is the epicenter of terrorism, right? Before that, he said it was Egypt. Before then, they said it was the Middle East, but now it's Burkina Faso. And what he said further, he said these insurgents group, right? They need resources. They need money. So that means these insurgents group, they are private military organizations that are being hired by the West to destabilize an area or a nation who are on the forefront of liberating. Because imagine, what already told us, a liberator zone will always be under constant threat by the imperialists and support from the imperialists. And Leslie told us that because these insurgents say they are private organization, they sponsor them, they pay them, they pay them off to go and destabilize. And that's why he said these insurgency, they need money, they need finances, they need resources. So they buy these people up. You remember one time in our discussion when Eric Spencer said, Eric Spencer, who was the leader of the Blackwater, when he made a statement and said, we need to go and recolonize Africa. When he made a statement and said, I'm asking the United States government to sponsor us to go recolonize Africa, he was actually saying, he's asking the United States government to pay them as a private military group so that they can go to the African continent to fight for the political elite of the United States. And don't get it twisted. It may not be the black, highly qualified paramilitary group of Eric Spencer. It could be the same people of Eric Spencer who are in that place fighting and they call them the terrorists and they're paying them. It may not be the Blackwater, but Eric Spencer said the United States government pay people to go and destabilize area as you are speaking in code. That's what it meant. We are asking the United States government to sponsor, because the United States government did sponsor Blackwater in the Middle East. We showed that. And every sponsor said they were in the Middle East. We showed that on this channel here. And so you heard it. They're saying down there, 40 million United States dollars every week go to the Taliban. Are you aware? And he said, yes, this is in Congress. So then, how can the United States come and tell us, say, they are coming to rescue us when they are the one funding the terrorists to kill Africans? And they come back to tell us they are coming to fight for us. They are coming to fight for the African people. create the chaos and capitalize on the chaos to accomplish your aims. That is exactly the aim of the United States. Let's continue here. African leaders, if you don't come to your senses, you still believe in the US, you still believe in Europe, you still believe in Africa, you are doomed.
The terrorist organizations.
We have assisted Al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the...
So you heard what I said. Al-Shabaab in Somalia. That is Africa. They support them. So if they can do it in Somalia, that is what they are doing in Burkina Faso today. They are the ones supporting the people. They may just confessing to you. There's Al-Shabaab in Somalia. They support them. That's why they part of the 40 million United States dollar went every week. So if they did it there for their interest, that's what they are doing in Burkina Faso. That's what they are doing in Mali. That's what they are doing in Niger. That's what they are doing in DRC Congo. That's what they are doing in Sudan. That's what they are doing in Sudan. These people are telling you.
Khamzi Network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kata'iba Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from...
So you heard that. So now they say $40 million United States dollar every week go to the Taliban, right? So he's also adding, because now he's explaining, he's also adding. So you heard what he said in Sudan. And then dozens of these, how they call it, Taliban receive indirect support from NGOs, Western NGOs, organizations. You heard what they say here, or you are hearing what they are saying.
from U.S. foreign aid. Let's use Gaza as our case. Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid. Let's use Gaza as our case study. $2.1 billion in American taxpayers' money to Gaza since October 7th when Hamas invaded southern Israel. USAID money was going in terms of an emergency use authorization to try to go to parties that USAID formerly had a relationship with in the Gaza Strip.
How did terrorists exploit our foreign aid loopholes?
You have international NGOs and UN agencies actively lobby here in Washington, D.C.
So you heard that. International NGO, UN agency. You heard that. UN agency. You heard it? And you heard the billions of dollars that go to these terrorists?
against vetting policies that would prevent it. I was the senior vetting officer at USAID, and what we did.
Did you say United Nations is doing this? The UN?
Sure, everybody who's getting money lobbies here.
You heard that. To confirm it, a question was asked. Hold a minute. Did you say the United Nations is doing it? He said, yes. Wait a minute. Did you say the United Nations is doing it? And he said, yes. You heard that. Let's continue.
So the taxpayers fund this lobbyist who's working against American interests.
Correct.
Possibly killing our allies and possibly Americans.
They bring together groups in Washington that overseas work with groups that kill Americans.
How do these programs compromise our national security, Mr. Premerick?
They actually push China. They actually push much of the world towards China on the green energy.
Now, again, let me explain something here. With all what they are saying, right? Now, instead of coming to a point to say we see the reason why Africans are neglecting the US. But yet then, they're not doing that. They're still blaming China. They're still blaming China for taking their place. How will you blame China when Africans have seen your hypocrisy? When Africans have seen the kind of support you gave them, when Africans have seen the kind of democracy you gave them, when Africans are seeing that you are the one supporting their demise, you are the one supporting the hunger, the poverty, the chaos, the Al-Qaeda, the ISIS. Oh, did you not support the Arab Spring to kill Gaddafi? And you just sell it, $40 million United States every week go to Taliban, go to terrorists. And you just sell it in Sudan, in Somalia, in Niger, or Ethiopia, those places. You just sell it. So how can Africans then trust you? And then nations that are coming, because the last time when Abraham Traore defeated the same terrorists in Burkina Faso that you support with your taxpayer money, with your NGO, with your Red Cross, it was China drone and North Korea drone that were used to slaughter all those Taliban, all those terrorists that you support, that your Western organization report on and say Abraham Traore killed over 200 civilians. So how can Africans see these things and then still trust the US? No. The people that give us support, ammunition to defeat the terrorists, to kill the terrorists, that the people we're going for. Those are the people we will go for. So do you did, and then you want to go say, oh, China is taking your interest. China, no, China is not taking your interest. African people have come to realize that you are the devil, you are the demon, you are the enemies. Not China, not Russia. You will never see Western media, or let's say, or Chinese media, or Chinese Congress, or Chinese video saying, or 10 million, 40 million of our money go towards terrorists. You will not see it. It's not there. You will not see it from Russia, parliament, or government saying 50 million of our taxpayer money go towards terrorists. It's in Asaba, Al-Qaeda, in Sudan, in Somalia. You will not see it because it's not there. So then, the only one that is there from Russia and China, their support to fight terrorists. So then who will we go to? The one that is giving us support to empower ourselves, or the one that is giving support to the terrorists to defeat us, to make us weak, to pour in more in poverty? Who will we go to? The US? No. Who will we see as our enemy? China? Russia? No. The US? Europe? The people that support the Taliban, they are the enemy. So if the Taliban is an enemy to Africa, and the people that support the Taliban, they are enemies. If ISIS, if terrorists are African people enemies, and those that support the terrorists or the ISIS, those are also our enemies. So that is why we don't trust the US. We will never trust the US again. No more. Never. And in fact, Donald Trump have suspended us or changed Michael Leslie to another new guy called R.M. Anderson. They call him Davidina or R.M. Anderson. A white guy they have changed. Look, United States, you can do all the changes in this world. We don't trust you. We don't even trust the black man again that work with you. That alone to bring white men. The black men that work with you, we don't trust him no more. As long anybody, a black man that work with you, we don't trust you. Because Obama proved it that we should not trust a black man that work with you. Michael Leslie proved it to us that we should never trust a black man that work with you. So if we don't trust our own black people that work with you, why do you think you will even change Michael Leslie and put white man there? And you think we're going to trust that white man? The point here is we don't trust you no more. That's the point. Live with your guilt. Live with your attitude. Live with your mistake. Live with your behavior. Live with your hypocrisy. We don't trust you no more, and we will never trust you. It's going to be difficult to do business with you. You like it or not. It is what it is, and we will tell you your faces.
Agenda. They push people, ordinary people, billions of people towards China because of the resentment caused by our social re-engineering.
You heard that, right? The last statement, we're going to take this video down. I'm not going to play all, but you got the point, right? You heard the last statement he made. This behavior have caused the people to reshape alliances to China. Because of our behavior, because of our policy, because of our selfish interests, made them to shape alliances to China. Oh, I'm glad you said that. You know, they still got some honest people among them. But just because they're honest, that doesn't mean we should trust them. They can be honest, but at the same time, they are not still for us. He's honest that African people have realized that they are the problem to the African continent and to the black race. He has realized that we Africans know now, he has realized that we can no longer be fooled. That is what he has realized, he has recognized. But not to say they have come to a point where they know their mistake or their guilt. No. So you heard that. So that is why Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso say we do not want no foreigners or organization, foreign military, foreign NGO. We don't want it. All of you guys are working for the United States government, working for European government, working for Europe Western interests. That is why Abraham Tuare said, since when have you guys reported on anything good about Africa? The war, you see, the war are actually getting to know the importance of Africans because Africans are standing out to the West, and the West is failing. That is why they are talking about the richest continent. Oh, Africa is this. If nobody has time to Africa, you're going to fail. You're going to this. But since when have Western media ever reported on mineral resources about Africa? That Africans are not benefiting, but everything is coming to Europe and America and Asia. Where? Since when? Never. But all they report on is poverty, hunger, famine, death, people in need. But when we tell these organizations we don't want your aid again, we are not people in need, we already know what we have, then they get angry. So you heard what they say here. They just confirm the reason why Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso kick all of them out. And that is what they say here in our last statement. So, but then, if these people are changing alliances, going to China and Russia, it is because of our own behavior towards them, our own inhumane treatment towards them.
Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Khamsi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kataib al-Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the mechanisms in place that are to stop foreign aid from going to terrorist groups, and why are they not working if we have any in place?
Sure.
And I would note that these are, you notice these are terrorist weaponry. You see some AKs, SKSs, some snipers, some clips, some clip carriers probably made in China. And
So you see evidence right there. You see the USAID right there. Those are supply. Oh, can you hear me now? We can hear you. Okay. So those are supply. Do you see the supply there? Those are supply. And do you see those modern equipment, weapons? But listen, they say, you see what they did? Even though they try to change the statement, right? Oh, the weapon, these are China made. No, these are Western made, and not Chinese made. You have evidence. Look at the USAID there. So those are evidence, and these are the things going to the tourists. The Taliban, the ISIS, the Al Qaeda. You see it. All of a sudden, Africa went to the African continent. Before we look, the African continent became how to call it, a terrorist ground. How? That is why war cannot finish in DRC Congo, because the United Nations is there supporting these terrorist activities. They say that the United Nations is also part. That is why we need to kick the United Nations out of Africa. Let them leave. So you see,
I believe these are small landmines here beside right there.
Let's use Gaza as our case study. $2.1 billion in American taxpayers' money to Gaza since October 7th, when Hamas invaded southern Israel. USAID money was going in terms of an emergency use authorization to try to go to parties that USAID formerly had a relationship with in the Gaza Strip. They had to have been vetted by OFAC. They should have been vetted against the special designated terror list from the State Department and from other Treasury organizations. Waivers were granted because they said that there was an emergency use to have that money come in to Gaza, thereby jettisoning the usual typical screening procedures. As a result, 90% of aid that was going from the United States by way of its agents in Gaza ended up in Hamas-controlled areas. And this is ridiculous. Essentially, what the U.S. assistance to Gaza did was underwrite the ability for Hamas to survive until the ceasefire was just passed a few weeks ago. There was no strategic thought for it, and there was no screening.
Seems like the emergency might have been armed terrorists to kill civilians. Would that be accurate?
That's accurate, and even more than that.
all right, so you heard that. So it might have been that terrorists were armed to kill civilians. That's accurate. He said, yes, that's accurate, even more than that. You heard that. So that's the same thing they're doing right now, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. Arming the tourists. And then these tourists go and cause chaos, so that the citizens can go against the government of the people to say, listen, you guys can solve this problem. So we need foreign intervention back. We need France back. We need American bases back. We need Canadian bases back. We need Germany bases back. But at the same time, you have the Canadian base there in our region, the German base there, the Russian, not the Russian, but the English base there. You have American base there. All right, these people build $1 billion drone in our region, but they couldn't defeat terrorists. And then when they took them out, and then they do all of these things now. Do you see that? So they support the terrorists go kill innocent people so that the people can go against the government or their people, their army.
Samantha Powers, the administrator for USAID, was intent on having Israel not be able to defend itself.
To not be able to defend it.
Correct.
Mr. Primorak, is that correct? How do you say that? Primorak? I got Burchett, man. Nobody gets mine right, so don't worry about it. What is it, Primorak?
Perfect.
All right, thanks, brother. How did terrorists exploit our foreign aid loopholes?
Well, we have a lot of our
Can you pull
international.
your mic up? I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You have international NGOs and UN agencies actively lobby here in Washington, D.C. again.
All right, sorry, folks. So how do these terrorists exploit our resources or our taxpayer money, right? He said we have international NGO, including the United Nations Agency in Washington, D.C. lobbying. You heard that? So these NGO and the United Nations Agency, they come and lobby for the terrorists. And then when they do this, they will get small assistance. And then when the terrorists go and cause the chaos, then these NGO go in and they give humanitarian. Oh, we are coming to save these people. Oh, we are coming to get, because that's what they call, or how they call it. There's a name for it. Incentive. That's the incentive, because the incentive will take away your mind, your thinking. All right, the incentive will take away your mind to deeply think of these people, what they do. So you will think, oh, the Taliban is bad. Oh, United Nations or these NGO, they are good. They are giving aid. They are giving treatment, medical treatment. They are this. But that's the incentive to throw you off. To call destabilization, and you will not think about development. You will not think about empowerment. You will not think about innovation. Or you will think about to live, and then you will start giving the praises to the enemy. And then after that, they go, a few of the Taliban or the ISIS or the Al-Qaeda will be injured, then they go and treat them. That's what Red Cross said. Red Cross said, we are there to dialogue with both the government and the enemies of the government, the both armed conflict. We are there to dialogue with them. We are there to treat them, to carry on our humanitarian purposes. You see that? And then it baffled me to see African leaders still talking about United Nations. When Africa is already the United Nations, everybody wants piece of Africa. Everybody talking about Africa. Everybody saying without them benefiting from Africa, they will go bankrupt. They will go tear war country. They will not. There will be no more IMF. There will be no more World Bank without Africa. And we still there talking about NGO or talking about UN. When by itself, the United Nations by itself is Africa. Why are you fighting for veto power when you already have the veto power in your hands? That is why the same Bible says, thou art rich, but because of the lack of knowledge, you don't know that you are rich. Thou art powerful, but because of the lack of knowledge, you don't know that you are powerful. Because you hate yourself, you don't know that you are powerful. You have the power in your hands. You have the veto power. Not a so-called United Nations. It is a destruction.
Against vetting policies that would prevent it. I was the senior vetting officer at USAID, and what
Hold on
we
a second. Did you say United Nations is doing this? The UN?
Sure, everybody who's getting money lobbies here.
That they're lobbying against us. I'm sorry, Mr. Roman, you're...
There's actually someone who used to work for one of those lobbies, the largest NGO lobby, Interaction. One of our co-witnesses here worked for them from 2018 to 2023. USAID effectively self-funds its own external private lobby that then goes back to Congress and asks for more money for USAID.
So the taxpayers fund this lobbyist who's working against American interests.
Correct.
Possibly killing our allies and possibly Americans.
They bring together groups in Washington that overseas work with groups that kill Americans.
Yeah, I don't need a flow chart to show that. I appreciate it. Do you think USAID programs have been aligned with the national security interests of the U.S.?
No, they have not. They have actually helped China.
Mr. Roman?
Now, I'm going to take this out right. No, they are not. They have actually helped China. How did they help China? All these long, they've been silent. You see, all these long, they've been silent and they were aware of what was going on because that was what they wanted. But now they are saying it did not help them. It have helped China because at the end of the day, we have recognized the hypocrisy. We have recognized what the United States government have been doing, funding these non-governmental organizations and funding the terrorists and destroying Africa, destroying Africans, and getting our leaders and removing our leader, assassinating our leader. The morning one was Gaddafi. They have seen that we Africans have come to realize that they are the enemies. And now we are shutting alliances. That is why they are saying it did not work for them, but now it's working for China. Let's take this out. And some of them are saying it. They all are saying it. Let's look at this Italian prime minister here. Even though we know her already, she's been around. But let's see what she said here. Listen to what she said here. She just agreed to what was said. She just agreed to what was said in our Congress there. And she just agreed to the action Africans are taking. And she just agreed of what we said last week, that we don't trust the US, we don't trust the West, and we will never trust them again. Listen to what she said. She just agreed that everything Africans are going through around the world, around the globe, on the African continent, African nation, they were the cause. They are the cause. So she's saying these black people, they are right for the decision they are taking now. They have waken up. Listen to what she said.
Is victim of many external spoilers that work against its stability. They don't trust us a lot. And I cannot say that they are completely wrong. That's why my opinion is that we have to change this approach. If you want to do serious things, you have to do things that are useful for both. For example, now we have a problem in Europe about energy sources after the war, but Africa is potentially an enormous producer of energy, of every kind of energy, green energy, hydrogen, geothermic, they've got gas, they've got everything. Africa today is victim of many external spoilers that work against its stability. They don't trust us a lot. And I cannot say that they are completely wrong. That's why my opinion is that we have to change this approach. If you want to do serious things, you have to do things that are useful for both. For example, now we have a problem in Europe about energy sources after the war, but Africa is potentially an enormous producer of energy, of every kind of energy, green energy, hydrogen, geothermic, they've got gas, they've got everything. Africa today is victim of
All right, that was my learning, right? Now let's look at what Trump also said. Now let's see what Trump also said about this, right? Let's see what Trump said.
With Gaddafi, and you look at what happened. I mean, look at Libya, look at Iraq. Iraq used to be no terrorists. He would kill the terrorists immediately. It was like, now it's the Harvard of terrorism. Iraq. If you look at Iraq from years ago, I'm not saying he was a nice guy, he was a horrible guy, but it was a lot better than it is right now. Right now, Iraq is a training ground for terrorists. Right now, Libya, nobody even knows Libya. Frankly, there is no Iraq and there is no Libya. It's all broken up. They have no control. Nobody knows what's going on.
The world would be better off with Saddam Hussein
100%.
and Gaddafi in power?
100%. Now, as far as Assad is concerned.
What about the human rights abuses?
Let's talk, well, you don't think they're happening now? They're worse now than they ever were. People are getting their...
Now, let me just clarify something here about our journalists. Do you see what a journalist said? How about the human rights abuse? Because Trump said if Gaddafi was alive, Libya would have been a better place. There wouldn't be it wouldn't be a tourist ground. Saddam Hussein, if he was alive, the Middle East would have been a better place. It wouldn't be a tourist ground, right? But see, the United States went there, killed this man. Now this place is a tourist ground. The United States went to Libya, killed Gaddafi. Libya is now a tourist ground. Now, Trump said Libya was better 100 times under American influence or under American democracy. Trump also said the Middle East was better 100 times under Saddam Hussein and the leader in our region than the current American influence or American democracy. Now, the journalists, you see these Western media, and then he asked Trump, well, how about the human rights violation of Saddam Hussein, the human rights violation of Gaddafi? But let's ask this American journalist or these Western journalists, what is human right? What do you call human right? Are you telling me under Gaddafi, Libya we saw, are you telling me that was a violation of human rights? Versus the current Libya under American influence, under American democracy, that is not a violation of human rights. So under Gaddafi, that was violation of human rights. But under American influence or American democracy, Libya is under peace or democracy, or Libya is under human rights. What do you call human rights? So human right is Western organization or Western government or American government looting the people oil and resources. That is human right. So human right is looking at the Libyan dying 24/7. That is human right. So human right is destroying the people hospital, destroying the people government, destroying the people a peaceful nation, destroying the people infrastructure, destroying the people educational facility. That is human right. Oh, so human right is the Libyans are suffering today. Childbirth, people die massively. That is human right. That the American government cannot provide a democracy and a free will that they decided to give to the people. That is human right. So human right is American looting the people resources in Libya, and the Libya are no longer benefiting from their resources like under Gaddafi. That is human right. Today in Libya, the people have no right in government. That is human right. According to the journalists, that is human right. When under Gaddafi, citizens did not die for hunger. Citizens did not die or starve from illness and things. But today, citizens are dying from starvation. Citizens are dying in the desert on the Mediterranean Sea. Libyans are dying on the Mediterranean Sea in the desert to go to Europe. That is human right. That is protection of human right. You see, why we Africans, we need to stop taking the narrative of the West. Anytime the West talk about human right, we shouldn't carry that narrative. Because what is human right to them is not human right to us. And what is human right to us is not human right to them. Trump is educating this man, and this man is sitting there, well, how about human right? So is Libya today, are they on a human right today?
Their heads chopped off. They're being drowned. Right now, they're far worse than they were ever under Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi. I mean, look what happened. Libya is a catastrophe. You look at our ambassador as an example, okay? Libya is a disaster. Iraq is a disaster. Syria is a disaster. The whole Middle East. And it all blew up around Hillary Clinton and around Barack Obama. It all blew up. Now, one thing about Assad, not a good guy. I understand that. But we're backing and spending billions and billions of dollars on backing rebels that we have no idea who they are.
Okay, Trump just said it. What was said in our Congress and what was said, what the Nigerian government said, Trump just confirmed. We are here backing the rebel with billions of dollars. The terrorists with billions of dollars. Trump just said it. You heard it. Now, you can hate Trump what you want to say. Look, the Most High put Donald Trump in this position to expose these people. So, for some of we are not going to listen to what mainstream media want to talk about Trump, and then you think I'm going to listen to mainstream media? If you are here to listen to mainstream media, then listen to them, anything they say about Africa. Any good thing have they reported about Africa? Everything bad. And then you want to come and say, oh, mainstream media say this about Trump. I don't believe what mainstream media say about Trump. I don't care. The Most High put Trump in this position to expose these people. Trump said it. Trump need Obama as the issues to Libya. Trump need Hillary Clinton as the issue. Which one of the government, American government, have ever come out to point fingers on Obama or Hillary Clinton like how Donald Trump have done it? Did Joe Biden do it? Did George Bush do it? No. No American leader will ever do that. But here it is. Donald Trump is telling you the same thing we're saying. Trump is doing it. And then you want to come and say, the mainstream media will come and tell you, say, oh, Trump, look, I don't care. Trump can have his issue. Trump can have his problem. Like, I believe the Most High put Trump in this position to expose these people. See what I mean? Gaddafi would have been, Libya would have been a better place under Gaddafi. Libya was under a better place under Gaddafi. And Gaddafi, Libya would have still be a better place had it not be the American government sponsored terrorists. And when they killed Gaddafi, destroy Libya. And look at what Donald Trump said. Look at Libya today. People here are being cut off. And the journalist said, how about human rights? Gaddafi violated. Donald Trump is telling you in Libya today, people here are being cut off. And then you saying human rights? Donald Trump is saying what we are experiencing today, and it's because of American influence. And you say human rights. All the chaos, Donald Trump is saying the increase of Al-Qaeda as a terrorist in the war, it is because of American support. Where's the NGOs? But why have we gone wrong, Africans? That we still believe in these people. We don't believe that they are the enemies. We believe that they are the Messiah coming to Messiah us, or coming to rescue us, or coming to save us. Save me with that crap and that BS. And this is what Patrick Lumumba said. Let's listen to Professor Lumumba. Some of our issue, we Africans, we black people, some of our issues.
Told us that our God was not God. They came with a God, and today, when you go into many households of those who claim to be Christians or those who are Christians, you find the image of an actor called Geoffrey Hunter being received as the image of Jesus Christ. They came and told us that our names were not good names. And they gave us names. They came and told us that our natural features had to acquire different names. So they came and found Lake Muitanzige and say, no, it is Lake Albert. They came and found our lake with our name. They say, this is Edward. They said another one is George. The falls which we had lived with, they said, this is Murchison. And even our national park, they called it Elizabeth. And when they went down, they found Lake Narubare and said, this is Victoria. And when they went down, they said that the falls, Mosio Tunya, was Victoria Falls. They came and told us that our culture meant nothing. And we believed them. And unfortunately, we still believe them. They told us that our God was not God. They came with a God, and today, when you go into many households of those who claim to be Christians or those who are Christians, you find the image of an actor called Geoffrey Hunter being received as the image of Jesus Christ. They came and told us that our names were not good names. And they gave us names. They came and told us that our natural features had to acquire different names. So they came and found Lake Muitanzige and say, no, it is Lake Albert. They came and found our lake with our name. They say, this is Edward. They said another one is George. The falls which we had lived with, they said, this is Murchison. And even our national park, they called it Elizabeth. And when they went down, they found Lake Narubare and said, this is Victoria. And when they went down, they said that the falls, Mosio Tunya, was Victoria Falls. They came and told us that our culture meant nothing. And we believed them. And unfortunately, we still believe them.
Exactly. That is what Professor Lumumba said. We believe them. And unfortunately, we still believe them. We don't believe that they are the enemies. We don't believe that they are the problem, or they are the people who are causing our problem. We don't believe it. But we believe that they are still the Messiah. They are still coming to save us. We believe that we can't do it on our own. But listen, there are some great men, and we are here in numbers, and there are some great leaders. There are some people who are listening, believe that we can do it on our own. And that is why we have woke up. And that is why Abraham Tuare is telling us that we can do it. And listen to what he's doing here.
Major breaking news, yes, from Burkina Faso. On 14th of May, he established this military. Take a look at your guys with weapons to protect Africa, especially Burkina Faso. What are you telling me?
Broken history again. Brothers and sisters across the great lands of Africa and the diaspora. Welcome to another powerful episode of Ugoma Media, the voice of African truth, pride, and progress. Today, we are shouting with joy, hearts beating with pride, because our topic is one that sends ripples of hope across the continent. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, president of Burkina Faso, has done it again. In his unwavering vision of an independent, sovereign, and powerful Africa, he has taken yet another historic step. Yes, family, the Institute of Black Peoples, Farafina, IPN Farafina, has been born. A new dawn is breaking over Burkina Faso. The spirit of Thomas Sankara lives again. The soul of the Buffalo Soldier breathes once more in the heart of Africa. Ugoma Media salutes this monumental initiative, led by our brother, our leader, our revolutionary captain Ibrahim Traoré. Let's break this down for the world to understand just how big this is. The IPN Farafina is not just an institution. It is the rebirth of an African consciousness. It is a fortress of black pride, African dignity, and cultural revival. Created in the image of the Buffalo Soldiers of 1861, this military regiment and ideological institution speaks of resilience, of history, of justice. Let us remember the Buffalo Soldiers, black men, formerly enslaved, systematically oppressed, who rose in 1866 to defend and serve with courage. From the dusty trails of the American West to the steep hills of San Juan in Cuba, they marched. Their legacy is one of discipline, strength, and loyalty. And today, President Traoré draws from that well of strength. The IPN Farafina is our own Buffalo Soldier Regiment, not just in name, but in spirit. It is African. It is Pan-African. It is sovereign. This institution carries the ideals of anti-imperialism and the spirit of the people's progressive revolution. It is a sword against the forces of recolonization, a shield against the erasure of our culture, and a school to train sovereignist minds. Let the world know the IPN Farafina is not just military. It is also scientific. It is cultural. It is diplomatic. It is intellectual. It is a cradle where African history will be studied by Africans for Africans. Our ancestors smile in joy. This move, my people, is part of a grand vision. It is not isolated. It is deliberate. It is structured. On the same day, May 14, 2025, Captain Traoré's government also announced the creation of a higher military education college in Burkina Faso. Now we're talking about an African military education that is adapted to our realities, our terrains, our threats, and our culture. No longer shall Burkina Faso depend on foreign military doctrines that do not suit our people. We will train our officers locally. We will educate them in geopolitics, crisis management, and leadership, with Africa at the center. And that's not all. This college will be open to brothers and sisters from neighboring and fellow African countries. A Pan-African military elite will rise, trained not to serve foreign interests, but to protect African dignity and territorial integrity. Can you feel the power in this decision, family? Burkina Faso is becoming a lighthouse, a beacon of African resistance, a bastion of black pride. From the ashes of the original IPN created during the 1983 revolution of Thomas Sankara, Captain Ibrahim Traoré raises a phoenix. The original IPN was buried by those who tried to erase Sankara's memory. But today, in 2025, it returns even stronger. It returns with soldiers, with scholars, with sovereignty. Ugoma Media family, let us not take this lightly. This is a declaration of ideological war against colonial mindsets. This is a cultural uprising. This is a military awakening. And President Traoré is leading it with the wisdom of Sankara and the boldness of Lumumba. He is showing us that independence is not just about borders. It is about the mind. It is about the curriculum. It is about who trains our soldiers and who tells our stories. We are entering a new era where Burkina Faso becomes a sanctuary for Pan-Africanism, a place where young Africans come to learn about Nkrumah, about Cabral, about Marcus Garvey, about Harriet Tubman, about the Buffalo Soldiers, and about Sankara and Traoré. This is more than pride. This is legacy. This is how we plant the seeds of sovereignty in the minds of our children. This is how we end dependency. This is how we defeat imperialism. So to the skeptics and critics who still wonder what Traoré is building, let Ugoma Media answer. He is building freedom. He is building history. He is building Africa. We invite every youth, every intellectual, every African soldier of the mind and of the sword to look to Burkina Faso. The IPN Farafina is calling. It is calling the brave, the committed, the visionary. And here at Ugoma Media, we will keep telling these stories.
So, as you can see, this young guy is not joking. He means business here in Africa. The enemies must be panicking because they don't know the next step of this young guy, Ibrahim Traoré. Not up to a week, he came back from Russia. He already established this military.
And then the secret courts.
All right. So that is the kind of mindset of Africans. And that is what we want. And that is what we're trying to tell the US. That's what we want. You see? France, US, Europe, when you hire soldiers, your bases, your billion-dollar drum, it makes us less important. But you see, when the African men do things by themselves, we are the force of the war. But for so long, we have believed that you are the Messiah. Now you are the enemies. You guys are the enemies the Bible speaks of. And we'll continue to say it. The demon or the devil is not under the ground or under the sea or in some kind of sky. It lives right here. The devil and the demon are those that enslave Africans. The devil, the demons are those that colonize Africa. The devil, the demons are those that kill African revolutionary leader. The devil, the demons are those that wanted to kill Nkrumah. The devil, the demons are those that remove Nkrumah for power. The devil, the demons are those that put sanction on Robert Mugabe. The devil, the demons are those that put sanction on African leaders, on African nations. When Africans says we do not want to support or protect foreign interests over our national interest. The devil, the demons, the enemies are those people. The enemies are those people that kill Gaddafi. The enemies are those people that destroy Libya. The enemies are those people that want to kill Burkina Faso President Ibrahim Traoré. The enemies are those people that want to destroy Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. The enemies are those people that don't want to see Africa rise. The enemies are those people that don't want to see Africa be free and independent. The enemies are those people who want to see African resources being exploited to the West. The enemies are those people who want for African resources to benefit their nation, their economy, and why Africans are lavishing in poverty. The enemies are those people who find pleasure in reporting on their Western media how Africans only know how to die on Mediterranean Sea. The enemies are those people. The enemies are those people who now report on African resources. The enemies are those people who continue to lie to the world about Africans being poor. And the enemies are also those African leaders who listen to their slave master and who want to do good and don't want to lead, don't want to rule for the African continent. Those people are also enemies. But let's dive into this photo about African enemies. Who are they? They are the Western nation. We know them. They are the one that enslave us. They are the one that colonize us. They are the one that kill our leader. And they are the one that still want to kill our leader. They are the one that support corruption. They are the one that support corrupt African government. They are the enemies.
Okay, let's dive in. When you think about a place like Burkina Faso in West Africa, maybe your first thought is, well, a nation dealing with familiar development issues.
Right. Pretty quiet, maybe.
Exactly. But this stack of sources we're digging through today, it reveals something far more complex and frankly, pretty surprising.
Yeah, it's not just some quiet corner. The material shows it's sitting right in the middle of a really strategic and frankly conflict-heavy zone.
And what jumps out immediately from these reports, it's not what you might guess, like oil or diamonds driving all the global attention and, fueling the conflict.
No, the sources are really clear on this. The real flashpoint seems to be a government that's just refusing to back down. There's this growing hunger for real sovereignty that certain powerful international players find, well, let's say disruptive.
So it's less about what's literally under the ground and more about the spirit of independence rising up.
Precisely.
Our deep dive today is pulled from quite a range of material. We've got recent reports detailing a major counterattack by the Burkinabe forces, which are quite telling.
And our mission here really is to cut through the standard headlines, get to the core of what's actually unfolding in Burkina Faso. What is the nature of this conflict beyond the simple labels?
Right. Who's really benefiting from all the chaos?
Exactly. And what are the hidden layers of foreign involvement? That's crucial. And maybe most importantly, how is this nation, according to this material, fighting back? On multiple fronts, it seems.
So we're aiming to pull out those key insights for you, the things you can take away quickly.
Let's start with understanding the insurgency. The sources describe these armed groups active since around 2015, and they're not just scattered warlords.
No, not at all. They're painted as these well-connected transnational militias moving with almost military precision.
And definitely not lightly armed. The material details some significant capabilities crossing borders pretty easily, using encrypted Western apps for communication.
Encrypted Western apps, interesting.
Yeah. And possessing advanced foreign-made weapons, which immediately raises a huge question the sources grapple with. How? How did they get so organized, so well-equipped? Where are these fighters actually coming from?
And this is where it gets, well, really interesting. The sources connect this rise directly to the vacuum left by previous foreign interventions. Operation Barkhane, the French-led one, gets mentioned specifically.
And ironically, maybe, also the presence of certain peacekeeping efforts seems to correlate.
It's a paradox the reports highlight, isn't it? The more counterinsurgency missions seem to be active,
The more the violence seemed to spread, more insurgent strongholds popped up, often in areas where foreign forces had previously been operating. Think Mali, Niger.
So the idea that these operations were purely about stopping the violence, it doesn't quite fit the pattern described in the sources?
Not perfectly, no. And the pattern apparently became even starker after some Western forces were asked to leave. The violence didn't just ramp up, it became much more targeted, more vicious almost, specifically aimed at the new leadership, like Captain Ibrahim Traore's government.
Which, as the sources note, forces you to ask, is this just coincidence? Or is it a consequence?
That's the unavoidable question they pose.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Who, according to these sources, is actually benefiting from all this sustained chaos?
Yeah, the material really challenges the easy answers, like, oh, it's just about grabbing resources.
Right, like oil or minerals.
Instead, it argues the real threat, the thing that worries powerful global actors, is this concept of resistance, of genuine sovereignty actually taking root.
So Burkina Faso's potential wealth is mentioned, but it's framed strategically. Things like gold reserves, yes, but also untapped energy, agricultural potential.
And crucially, that growing desire for real independence. That's framed as the actual danger to certain external interests.
And keeping things chaotic serves multiple purposes, the reports suggest.
Absolutely. It generates those dramatic humanitarian headlines, right? Which can then be used to justify calls for external intervention.
Okay. Plausible deniability.
It also exhausts local leadership, keeps them off balance, maybe more pliable, and of course, it provides excellent cover for proxy actors, shadow forces operating in the region.
So who are the specific beneficiaries named?
Well, the sources point fingers at a few groups. Foreign mining companies,
Yeah, Black Panther, I understand what you're trying to say here, right? But I listened to the video over and over before bringing it here. What they're trying to do here is they're trying to use a sarcastic remark, right? You really got to understand what they're trying to say here, and that's what I want us to do here. They are being sarcastic here. That's why they're throwing all these questions in it, right? And then at the end, they explain who actually benefiting from it. Like pretty much what we're explaining here, right? That's why exactly they also are explaining. Like Western media will come and say, "Hey, we are coming to do this. We are coming to fight for you. You know, we are African want to come and free Burkina Faso, this, that, right?" So basically what they did, they asked all these questions like, "Hey, is it because of this? Is this this? Is this this?" And then now, boom, they come out with the analysis or what behind these things. So that is why I brought it. So all those questions they ask is a question that they just asked. Is it because of this? Is it because of this? And stuff. And then now they are coming to get into the narrative as to why these foreigners are there.
maybe wanting cheaper access to gold, arms dealers, obviously, who thrive on conflict,
A ready market.
and governments, perhaps, that are wary of a rising Africa. an Africa that stops, begging for aid and starts charting its own course.
Which leads us right into these layers of foreign interference, what some sources call the same old game of arming rebels.
Yeah, there are intelligence reports cited in the material that paint a pretty concerning picture. Warnings about external entities arming and funding what initially look like moderate rebel groups.
Only for them to predictably morph into full-blown insurgencies later on.
Exactly. It's a pattern the sources call a repeating trick. Something apparently seen in Afghanistan, Syria, Libya.
You arm a group, train them, then act surprised when they become part of the problem you supposedly came to fix.
That's the dynamic described. But Burkina Faso, the material suggests, is actively trying not to follow that script.
Unlike states that maybe welcomed foreign troops, gave up some autonomy for promises of stability.
Right. Traore's government, according to these sources, is challenging that narrative directly. They're not just asking for help, they're asking really fundamental questions.
Which the sources lay out, like, who are these fighters really? Where did they get these sophisticated weapons?
And who keeps funding them while, the Burkinabe people are struggling with basic needs?
The argument in the sources, then, is that this stance is why Burkina Faso isn't just fighting insurgents. It's being punished on multiple levels for daring to think independently, for refusing to be a client state.
Which brings us to Captain Ibrahim Traore himself. His background, as described, isn't the usual elite path.
No palace or fancy academy. He came directly from the front lines. His rise is portrayed as, urgent, driven by anger, by seeing his country bleed firsthand.
And the reports contrast how global media initially saw him, just a young captain, with how many Burkinabe citizens reportedly viewed him.
As a leader who actually listened, sat on the ground with villagers in war zones.
Yes, stark contrast to perhaps more distant leaders they'd known. And the sources emphasize how quickly he moved to dismantle what they call the old formula.
That cycle of permanent instability under foreign care.
Exactly. His first big move, framed as a clean break, was ending military cooperation with France. After nearly a decade of intervention that the sources characterized as, ineffective.
And the stated reason reported was that France seemed more focused on its own interests than Burkina Faso's security.
That was the claim reported, yes. And the ripple effect, according to the material, was immediate. Severed intelligence ties, training programs halted, international aid paused.
And a noticeable shift in the Western media narrative, portraying him as a threat to democracy.
Right. The sources juxtapose that with the observation that, for many on the ground, the previous democracy hadn't actually stopped the bullets or protected their homes.
Then came the second controversial move, inviting Russian military instructors.
Highly debated, yes. The sources tend to interpret this less through a Cold War lens and more as a pragmatic assertion of sovereignty.
Looking for partners willing to respect that independence, military pragmatism without the colonial baggage or IMF strings.
That's the interpretation offered. But the sources definitely acknowledge the risks involved. This shift, while asserting independence, did create a vacuum.
Which allowed regrouped insurgent cells to launch a surge of more surgical, targeted attacks.
Attacks the material suggests were maybe a form of punishment for the new regime's choices.
So how did Traoré counter this, according to the reports?
With a strong push to reinforce local defense militias, improving supply lines, launching aggressive offensives. These reportedly led to hundreds of insurgents captured or killed.
And the affiliations and equipment found pointed towards foreign sponsorship.
That's what the sources claim, yes. Adding another layer of complexity. And there's a clear difference in perception noted.
Western critics calling the methods extreme.
While many in Africa, according to the material, saw it as clarity in action after years of approaches that seemed ineffective.
Okay, now the sources shift to a different kind of threat. Not guns on the battlefield, but influence, whispers, discontent. The word coup starts appearing.
Yeah, the tactic described is turning the army against its own leader, undermining from within.
And this internal threat apparently materialized early in 2025, forming inside the military structure itself.
A betrayal planned while the government was focused on fighting the external insurgency. The plotters are identified in the reports.
Disgruntled soldiers, officers, intelligence defectors.
Some of those, yes. Reportedly coordinating with insurgent factions, particularly those who'd recently lost territory. And their goal, as stated in the sources, realignment.
Back to the old order. Back to foreign handlers.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Framed in the sources as a counter-revolution.
And the planned stages were pretty specific, weren't they?
Chillingly so, according to the material. Isolate Traoré, politically using rumors, destabilize frontline morale with disinformation, trigger unrest in the capital, stage an internal mutiny, seize the residence.
And then call for international stabilization to bring in a Western-approved transitional council.
That was the alleged plan. But what's striking, according to the sources, is why it failed.
Traore knew it was coming.
Security reports cited suggest exactly that. The key evidence highlighted was intercepted communications, specifically mentioning foreign consular codes.
Which the sources strongly suggest indicates involvement from state-level actors outside Burkina Faso.
That's the implication drawn. Traore's response, as described, was decisive, but also initially very low profile.
He let the plot develop just enough to see who was involved.
Apparently. Then moved swiftly, silently, to neutralize the network. Arrests, discovery of hidden arms, foreign cash. The coup was crushed, the reports say, in silence, before most people even knew the full extent of the threat.
The fallout must have been significant.
Huge, according to the reports. The investigation reportedly uncovered plotters working through foreign intermediaries linked to intelligence operations in neighboring countries, trying to create a path for external forces to re-enter, but through an internal takeover this time.
So, post-coup attempt, what actions did the government take?
Tightened command structures, internal loyalty audits in the military, restructured units, and according to the material, dismissed officials found with unexplained wealth.
And this led to the development of what the sources call a people-powered security model.
Yes, deploying community-based intelligence. Basically, trusted civilians reporting suspicious military activity. A decentralized system that, the sources note, would be incredibly hard for any foreign blueprint to replicate or easily infiltrate.
A sobering lesson learned then, according to these reports. Sovereignty isn't just threatened by invasion, but by sophisticated infiltration.
Forcing the nation into a war on two fronts, external insurgency and internal betrayal. Very complex.
Now let's move to perhaps the most sensitive area described, the villages, where ethnic tensions are reportedly being weaponized.
This is incredibly dangerous ground. A major focus here is the Fulani community, a large nomadic group across West Africa, millions in Burkina Faso alone.
Traditionally herders, farmers, but now facing dangerous stereotyping, the material says.
The sources try to unpack the complex reasons why some Fulani individuals might join insurgent cells. Poverty, marginalization, lack of education, livelihoods eroding due to climate change or land disputes.
Makes young men vulnerable to radical narratives, especially since some jihadist leaders are also Fulani.
That's the dynamic described, which unfortunately the sources say led some within the security apparatus to fall into this devastatingly simple, dangerous stereotype. Fulani equals insurgent.
But the material acknowledges the gray areas too. Some villages forced into complicity, soldiers reacting out of vengeance.
It does acknowledge that complexity. Villages providing food or shelter under duress, soldiers losing comrades near certain areas. It fuels suspicion, understandably, but dangerously.
But the sources stress, and this seems crucial, the vast majority of Fulani are innocent, trapped between insurgents and state suspicion.
Absolutely critical point. The sources argue every mistaken raid, every abuse that disproportionately hits innocent Fulani doesn't weaken the insurgency. It strengthens their recruitment pitch. See, they hate you. We're your only protection.
So this weaponization of ethnicity is presented as a deliberate strategic tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Designed to...
All right, let me explain a little bit on that. I think we talk about this Fulani issue, and exactly that is what they are doing here, like weaponizing the villagers against each other. Now, you see the West, I said it before that they are the same people who are supporting the Fulani, because listen to this. The Fulanis are one of the largest tribe or ethnic group in Africa, the Fulanis. They are all over. So they notice that since the Fulani are one of the largest group in Africa, they can use the Fulanis, because it will be easy to recruit the Fulani, because we already know America told us they support terrorists, they recruit terrorists, they fund terrorists. All right. Red Cross also told us, USAID, in fact, they told us already, right? So we know they are the one creating all these how they call it, destabilization activities, creating terrorists, recruiting terrorists. We already know they are the one, right? So they went, right, and talk to these Fulanis, Because if you get one group of Fulani, for example, in Mali, right? And they say, oh, the Fulanese people are being killed in Mali and this. So the rest of the Fulanese in Nigeria, in Liberia, in Africa, in Ghana, Mali, you name it, Senegal, I mean, you name it, all of them, right? They will now feel that, oh, there's a war against Fulanese. So it will be easy to recruit the Fulanese in Nigeria. It will be easy to recruit the Fulani in Ghana, in Liberia, in Africa, in Benin. Like, it will be very, very much easy to recruit them. You see it? Because they now view it that, hey, people hate them. So it will be easy for them to be part of the terrorists. So it was a sea Westerner that carry on that attitude, and that is what they are discussing here. Ethnic conflict, tribal conflict. You see it? And that is why I reported it last time. I said the Fulani should be very, very much careful. They shouldn't fall for this. Because the West is beyond this to cause destabilization, to cause insecurity, to cause chaos. And then they will be the ones supporting the Fulanese. Because the Fulanese are one of the largest ethnic group in Africa or on the west coast of Africa. One of the largest tribal group on the west coast of Africa, the Fulanese. Because all of a sudden, you never hear about Fulanese being killed. You never hear about Fulanese, government going against Fulanese, people going against Fulanese. But all of a sudden, from nowhere, and it just reported it, and then it went virus. And the mainstream media reporting this. Oh, Fulanese are there, Fulanese are there. Since when Western media have reported on anything good about Africa? So that is why these people are discussing here that these Fulani were recruited, okay, by the same West. Tribal conflict.
Fracture national unity, makes independence impossible, makes the country easier to manipulate from outside, alienate the Fulani, you get more recruits, prolong the conflict, create the conditions for foreign forces to say, look, we need to intervene for peacekeeping.
Yet amidst this,
very good. So you heard the analysis, like he stated it, he clearly stated. You heard it, what we just said, and you heard it clear. We said this some 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and you heard what he said. These people are not acting by themselves. They are acting on international influence. And then they will use that, and then use that now to go in.
the sources highlight something positive, a remarkable happening.
Yeah, local Fulani leaders actively speaking out against the insurgents using their name, holding peace dialogues, organizing state-loyal defense groups, helping identify foreign operatives.
And some former fighters returning through reintegration programs, trading intel for amnesty.
That's also mentioned. So the sources contracts this internal struggle, Burkina Faso, clawing its way towards unity under fire with maybe simpler international narratives. It's a hugely difficult balancing act.
And there seems to be a commitment noted from Traore's administration to build a future where being Fulani isn't cause for fear, rebuilding trust.
The material suggests that commitment is there. Acknowledging it requires immense effort, given the history and current pressures.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together from the material, the picture is stark. Burkina Faso's crisis isn't just about insurgents.
No, it's presented as this multifaceted struggle against external interference, internal sabotage, and global narratives trying to undermine its sovereignty.
And the intense scrutiny the country is under, accusations of human rights violations, authoritarianism, just for fighting back or stopping a coup. It raises that critical question from the sources.
Why is the country defending itself suddenly the one on trial?
And the sources offer a pretty pointed answer, don't they? It's not necessarily what Burkina Faso is doing wrong,
but what it might be doing right by the standards of African sovereignty, refusing to be just a compliant client state.
Look at the actions highlighted. Rejected French military presence, expose limits of Western peacekeeping, turning to non-Western alliances, trying to use resources for domestic revival, not just export.
Stuff that the material suggests isn't supposed to happen in the heart of the former French sphere of influence.
So the scrutiny isn't really about democracy, the sources argue, but about disruption.
Disruption of the old illusion, perhaps, that African nations need foreign guidance. Restoring democracy becomes a convenient phrase, potentially, to justify interventions like we saw elsewhere.
But Burkina Faso isn't just reacting defensively, it's building a counter playbook with neighbors, the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, with Mali and Niger.
Yes, the sources highlight this. Framed as a bold trilateral defense pact, rejecting neo-colonial meddling, prioritizing regional autonomy, local solutions, an African firewall, as one source puts it.
And it's having some effect on the ground, making it harder for insurgents, disrupting routes, shifting morale.
The report suggests it's starting to. Villagers beginning to trust maybe the government can protect them. But it's fragile.
Immensely fragile, because this break comes with huge economic pressure, right? Sanctions, financial isolation, media warfare, aid cuts, World Bank packages paused over institutional concerns.
Exactly. And this pressure, the sources argue, reveals a really unsettling truth, potentially, that insurgency in this context might be politically tolerable to some global actors. But genuine independence, that's not.
So a leader who cooperates and fails is tolerated, but one who defends his people without permission gets labeled a warlord.
That's the stark contrast drawn in the analysis, that Burkina Faso is treated harsher for killing insurgents than others might be for hosting them, because the core issue, from this perspective, is control, not just security or morality.
Yet against these odds, the sources say Burkina Faso keeps defying expectations.
Investing in local military production, partnering with new global players outside the usual structures, trying to forge this new political culture army, civilians, traditional leaders, working together in survival mode.
Messy, raw, but entirely African, as the reports describe it.
And maybe what really worries some international powers, according to this material, is the example it sets.
If a small nation like Burkina Faso can navigate all this insurgency, coups, ethnic tensions, sanctions, and still chart its own path,
what excuse does that leave for others? The sources frame it as a potential political revolution hiding in plain sight.
Ultimately, the reports suggest this whole situation forces a global question. Are we going to support African nations striving for real independence? Or attack it, maybe under the banner of fighting the very insurgencies that external interests might, in part, be fueling?
So, yeah, that paints a really complex, really challenging picture based on the sources we've looked at today. Burkina Faso's fight is clearly way more than just tackling militants.
It's this multi-layered battle, foreign interference, internal betrayal, global narratives, all trying to undermine its push for sovereignty.
And the material really does highlight that distinct path being attempted under Captain Traoré and how significant the AES alliance is as a challenge to the old ways.
So given everything we've discussed from these sources, how terms like stability or democracy can clearly be used in these bigger geopolitical games, how does that change the way you, listening, might evaluate those terms when they're applied to African nations trying to find their own way?
Yeah, what does Burkina Faso's fight, as described here, really tell us about the practical, on-the-ground challenges of achieving genuine independence in our world today? Definitely something to think about.
All right. So that is the conclusion of today's presentation. Everything we discussed kind of was summarized in there as you heard what the video said. And as we also heard from the United States Congress, they are the ones supporting these terrorists, the jihadi. In fact, the United States Congress said per week, $40 million United States dollars go to terrorists around the world. Per week, $40 million United States dollars per week go to the terrorists. And then they also say these international NGO organizations like the UN, Red Cross, USAID, they all go to the White House, right, to lobby to these Congress people, to these government officials, right, for funds in order to create insurgency, in order to create chaos on the African continent and around the world. That is what they said. So now, to you Africans, to you African journalists, all right, to you African leaders, to you African reporters, to you Africans, YouTuber, Twitter, or TikTok, right? To you, what is your fight? What is your take? What is your understanding of these things? What do you think about African being free? All right. What do you think about Africans, how they call it, taking charge of their own resources, having their own one military like Abraham Traore is doing, having a united front Pan-Africans military that he's doing right now, that he's building right now? What do you think? Do you think we should still be part of the so-called UN, the United Nations? The United States government just confirmed to us that the United Nations also support terrorism, or also support these terrorist insurgencies, give them support, ammunition, and things. What do you think about it? Do we still continue to ally with the West, with Western organizations? Do we still continue to listen to them when they say China is bad, Russia is bad? Who is killing African leaders? Who is plotting against African? Who have veto on the United Nations or African interests? It was not China. It was not Russia. We all know the United States and Europe, they have veto almost all African interests, things that need to interest African. In fact, they are the one telling Africa or other nations not to sell ammunition to African nations who want to break away free. What is our stand? What do we want? Do we want to move on, or do we want to continue to be to where we are? I, for once, I believe, and many of you want to move on. We don't want to be under the yoke of U.S. imperialism, under the yoke of U.S. oppression, under the yoke of U.S. sanction. All right? We want to be under the yoke of Africans, under the yoke of Black, under the yoke of our own. That is where we want to be. And this is a time. The time has come. We must unite. We must move on. We must work together. All right? They themselves, they know it. They know that the time has come. They know that Africans are uniting. They know that Africans know who the enemies are. And this is the time. No turning back, no going back. Forward, like Nkrumah said, ever, and backward, never. Today's presentation, I stand with you. I salute you. Please share, subscribe, listen to it. And as we continue on this mission, it's a mission of eternity. Peace.
The white power structure, because that's all we have in America. And the white power structure today is just as much interested in perpetuating slavery as the white power structure was 100 years ago. Only now they use modern methods of doing so. And realizing that the black people in this country are waking up and becoming filled with a desire to be looked upon as men and as human beings. The white power structure, to slow down that struggle for freedom and human dignity, uses tricks. 100 years ago, they could do it with chains. Today, they use tricks. And one of the